Step into the captivating realm of Death Note, where power, morality, and suspense collide. In this anime, a simple notebook holds the power of life and death, leading protagonist Light Yagami down a chilling path as he becomes Kira, a vigilante with deadly intent. The mysterious detective L stands in his way, sparking a thrilling battle of wits that blurs the lines between justice and revenge. As alliances shift and ethical dilemmas arise, Death Note prompts us to question our beliefs about morality and power. With intricate plot twists and complex characters, the anime keeps us hooked on every move. Join us as we explore the psychological chess match between Light and L, uncovering unexpected alliances and heart-pounding confrontations. Death Note offers a roller coaster of emotions that will leave you captivated until the very last note. Get ready for a journey through a dark and fascinating world that will keep you on the edge of your seat. In the Shinigami realm, Ryuk appears preoccupied while fellow Shinigami relax and engage in gambling. Meanwhile, in the human world, Light Yagami watches his classmates play games, disregarding the ongoing lesson. On his way home, reports of crimes are broadcasted through public television. Ryuk, the Shinigami, and Light all reflect on the corruption that has been cast over the world. Light stumbles upon a magical notebook, which endows him with the power to kill people simply by writing their names in it. He then writes the name of a suspect who engaged in a live TV hostage situation in order to assess its power. The criminal succumbs to a heart attack, and the hostages are rescued. Light tests the notebook again, this time targeting a motorcycle gang leader who mistreated a young woman. The leader's demise occurs in a traffic accident, making it 2 deaths caused by Light. Feeling unwell, Light encounters Ryuk, the Shinigami who dropped the notebook. Ryuk imparts more information about the notebook. Light elaborates on his intention to eliminate criminals through heart attacks, aiming to purify the world and prompt better behavior. He anticipates people realizing they're being watched and choosing goodness. Ryuk questions if Light might become the sole evil, but Light asserts he'll reign unopposed. He's determined to rule the world on his terms. In his high school English class, Light showcases impressive language skills by translating a sentence into Japanese, garnering admiration from classmates. After school, he's invited to hang out but declines, citing busyness. At home, Light persists in recording criminals' names in the Death Note as news reveals their identities. He confides in Ryuk about his constrained notebook usage, balancing it with studies and health concerns. Interrupting with a request for help with her assignments, Light's sister speaks up. Light moves quickly to hide the Death Note in a drawer and then assists his sister with solving some mathematical difficulties. Light is warned by Ryuk that his sister will perceive him if she makes contact with the notebook, but he maintains his composure during the conversation. He is very helpful to his sister and avoids any issues that may arise. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Police Organization initiates a meeting to deliberate on the 52 instances of criminals perishing due to heart attacks. A member queries the issue, given that the victims were all under life imprisonment or death row sentences. However, another member emphasizes the presence of a mass murderer responsible. The meeting's apparent leader quiets the room, affirming the ICPO's sole option, that is to bring in L. L is a mysterious person whose real identity is unknown. Renowned for resolving every assignment from the ICPO, silence befalls the room as discussions center on reaching out to L. However, a tall individual in a trench coat, Watari, the sole ICPO contact with L, reveals that L is already delving into the case. Watari unveils a laptop, projecting a colossal letter L from which L's voice emanates. L informs the International Criminal Police Organization of his suspicion that the mass killer lives in Japan, which necessitates participation from all entities linked with the ICPO, notably the Japanese task force. Light has devised a preventative measure in order to avoid the Death Note being discovered. He conceals the notebook beneath a journal in order to prevent others from looking inside. Hidden beneath the journal is a trick compartment that, if opened improperly, will set fire to both the notebook and the surface on which it is kept. Light explains to Ryuk in a level-headed manner that he would prefer the possibility of a home fire to the possibility of the notebook being found, which could result in the death penalty. With an increasing number of criminals succumbing to heart attacks, the public labels the perpetrator of these deaths as Kira. Amid news reports overlooking Kira's culpability, numerous fan websites emerge, backing Kira's actions. A special ICPO broadcast disrupts regular programming. A man in a suit, Lyndall Taylor alias L, introduces himself. The Japanese task force watches in astonishment as L unveils his countenance, marking the first public appearance of his face. He proceeds to chastise Kira for the crimes committed. Light's ire ignites as Taylor labels Kira's deeds as evil. In response, Light inscribes Taylor's name in the death note. Taylor succumbs, vanishing from the camera's view. Elle acknowledges Kira's remote lethality and counters with a proposition, evidence of his capabilities in return for a challenge. Elle discloses the broadcast was localized to the Kanto region, divulging his progress in narrowing Kira's location and identifying his initial victim. The police respond with astonishment and newfound determination. Both Light and Elle make solemn vows to pursue each other relentlessly, each convinced that their own version of justice prevails. The police diligently investigate the enigmatic demise of criminals, attributed to the vigilant figure known as Kira. As Kira evades capture, the police convene a meeting to deliberate on the case and exchange insights. Elle, a brilliant detective aiding the inquiry, posits that Kira is probably a student, supported by his meticulous evaluation of evidence. Simultaneously, Light, the protagonist concealing his identity as Kira, assists his sister with homework at home. His father, the chief of police, arrives home. Utilizing his hacking prowess, Light infiltrates the police network, discovering their suspicion that Kira is a student. To avert attention, he alters the time of death, placing himself in school during criminal fatalities. During another meeting, Elle postulates that Kira wields control over time of death, openly showcasing this capability. Light exploits this insight, confiding in his shinigami, Ryuk. He informs Ryuk that Elle will soon grow skeptical of police members. Light intends to capitalize on this suspicion to eliminate Elle once the police uncover his inquiry. At the NPA, 3 police officers tender their resignations upon verifying that victims' faces were seen prior to their deaths. Meanwhile, Watari updates Elle about the FBI's presence in Japan for investigating police personnel. Concurrently, Ryuk informs Light about someone tailing him, not out of support but due to discomfort. Back at home, Ryuk unveils to Light that Shinigami extend their own lifespans by inscribing human names in their death notes and can perceive humans' names and lifespans upon viewing them. Ryuk proposes a trade. Light can acquire Shinigami Eye's power in exchange for half of his remaining lifespan. Despite the cost, Light acknowledges that this power would enhance his death note utilization. Light Yagami discloses his grand ambition to Ryuk, forging a utopian realm devoid of unpunished criminals. As the prospective sovereign, he deems sacrificing half his life for Shinigami Eyes impractical, fearing it would curtail his dominion. Instead, he opts to experiment with the Death Note, employing imprisoned wrongdoers. As the police's Kira probe escalates, Chief Yagami and Elle are baffled by odd prisoner deaths. Light infiltrates the ongoing investigation, unearthing information about Elle. Elle apprehends that these incidents were likely trials and urges against publicizing this detail. Subsequently, Light concocts a strategy to unmask the person tailing him without arousing suspicion. He enlists classmate Yuri to join him for a date at Space World, with the tracker unwittingly trailing them onto the bus. The tracker sits behind them as they journey. Unexpectedly, Keikaru Asorda, a criminal involved in drug dealing and murder, boards the bus and takes control. Yuri, Light's classmate, leaves a note indicating his intent to incapacitate Asorda using a technique his father taught him. The person behind Light attempts to dissuade him, yet Light suspects his involvement with the hijacker and pressures him. Eventually, the man displays his FBI ID to establish innocence. As Light stretches for a note in the aisle, Asorda seizes it and reads its contents. Plans for Light's future. Unbeknownst to Asorda, these plans are inscribed on a Death Note page. Upon contact, Asorda witnesses Ryuk's manifestation, causing him to panic. Asorda's attempt to shoot Yuri fails, prompting him to halt the bus and escape. Yet, he swiftly meets his end as a passing vehicle strikes and kills him. Amid police inquiries, FBI investigator Ray Penver leaves the scene. Light continues his date with Yuri. Returning to their hotel room, Light and Yuri solidify their belief that Light is in Kira. On December 27th, Light and Ryuk descend into a bustling underground shopping center. Light introduces himself as Kira and substantiates his claim by eliminating a criminal, offering concrete proof of his identity. Ray complies with Light's directives, receiving an envelope and boarding a train as instructed. On the train, Ray inscribes the names of all other FBI agents in Japan on a Death Note page. Upon disembarking, Ray experiences a heart attack and perishes on the station platform. The killing of 12 FBI agents fuels NPA's skepticism toward Elle's intentions. Ray's fiancé initiates an independent investigation into Kira, suspecting someone from the bus. Amidst this, the hacking of the American president prompts the FBI's withdrawal from the inquiry. With Japanese police officers resigning from the case, only 5 investigators remain. In response to these growing suspicions, L takes action. L invites the remaining investigators to his hotel room, expressing trust in them. Light contemplates his next move, certain he has overlooked something. L ponders the outcomes of Light's inmate experiments. Light's father, the police chief, discloses his leadership in the Kira case. Light praises his father, vowing to apprehend Kira should his father pass away. That night, Chief Yagami, with his subordinates, meets L in his hotel room, striving to mend ties with the Japanese police. They are taken aback when L, who seems untidy and youthful, takes on the demeanor of an eccentric and acerbic individual. He reprimands the detectives for showing their identification cards and emphasizes that if he were Kira, their lives could have been in danger as a result of their actions. L urges the detectives to switch off their phones and mentally capture specifics in order to minimize data leaks. He is aware of the detectives' identities and appearances, therefore this is necessary. During the coffee break, L stresses the need of using Ryuzaki rather than L. He analyzes the evidence as well as some astonishingly correct insights about Kira's identity. L proposes manipulating media to magnify the task force's size, confounding Kira. In the meantime, Light Yagami comes to an understanding. Light thinks back to his previous maneuver, which took place on December 19th. He visits the police headquarters, ostensibly to deliver clothes to his father. There, he overhears Ray Pender's fiancée attempting to share her information concerning Kira with members of the task team while he listens in on them. Light offers to communicate her information to his father on her behalf. After leaving the headquarters, they have a discussion regarding the Kira investigation once they are outside. Light, who is adamant that it is his destiny to use the Death Note to make the world a better place, is filled with pleasure when he realizes that he may have found a probable link to his exposure. Carrying a Death Note page with him at all times, Light formulates a plan to eliminate the woman who poses a threat to his identity being exposed. Ryuk, Light's shinigami companion, chuckles as the woman, Shakamaki, provides her name. Shoko discerns the bus hijacker's unnatural control, shocking Light, who's horrified by her realization that Kira's powers extend beyond heart attacks. As events unfold, Light readies to inscribe Shoko's name, acknowledging an allied force beyond a shinigami. Light encounters Ray Pender's fiancée who possesses Kira-related data. Yet, fearing she might lead police to him, Light chooses to write her name in the Death Note, specifying a discrete cause of death, one that minimizes disturbance and conceals her body. Light anticipates the woman's demise within 48 hours, but to his surprise, she remains unharmed even after he inscribes her name in the Death Note. Upon realizing she uses an alias, Light fears she might implicate him to the police. Ryuk exploits this situation to urge Light into trading for the Shinigami eyes, granting the ability to perceive humans' names and lifespans. Growing increasingly desperate, Light extracts information from the woman under the pretense of aiding L, and ensuring her data reaches him. In parallel, L discloses his identity to the task force, supplying them with clothing embedded with gadgets for distress signals if they encounter Kira or face danger. He instructs one person to remain at HQ at all times to respond to calls and meet anyone in need. In search of Kira-related information, Light intercepts Pender's fiancée en route to the police headquarters. He fabricates a reason for their inability to meet the Kira investigators in person, prompting her revelation that she once served under L. Light then unveils his connection to the task force and invites her to collaborate with L's investigation, contingent on identification. Handing him her driver's license, she unwittingly discloses her true identity. As the Death Note's influence takes hold, Light discloses his Kira identity. She turns blank-eyed and disinterested, refusing police interaction as stipulated by the Death Note. Satisfied, Light walks away. Meanwhile, the task force commences an inquiry into Ray Pender's demise. While enjoying matcha green tea ice cream, L, the lead detective, detects several oddities surrounding Pender's demise. Pender lingered excessively on the train, abandoned an envelope not linked to him, and displayed visible distress before dying. L speculates whether Kira, their suspected serial killer, was also present on the train. Concurrently, the task force learns that Naomi Misora, fiancée of one of Kira's victims, has vanished. Her disappearance prompts suspicions of suicide, but L conjectures that Misora was probing Kira before vanishing, possibly identified by him. In their quest, L proposes the placement of surveillance cameras in the Chief Yagami and Deputy Director's homes, the subjects of Pender's investigations. The task force hesitates due to potential legal consequences, except for Chief Yagami. Light's father and a task force member concur that there is no alternative. As Light and Ryuk journey home, Ryuk's twitching betrays his Apple withdrawal. Apples act as the shinigami's alcohol and cigarettes. Ryuk pleads for more, but Light declines, leading Ryuk to grow annoyed. Upon returning home, Light realizes he is being surveilled. He had set up a precautionary measure to confirm any surveillance. Light performs a thorough search of his room for signs of unauthorized entrance using a 3-step process. While he is away, he secures his bedroom door by taping a piece of paper to it, inserting lead from a mechanical pencil into the hinges, and using a doorknob that can only rotate through an angle of 90 degrees. The news that 1,500 FBI agents have been dispatched to Japan appears on screen at the same time that Light's sister is watching a romantic comedy. Meanwhile, Elle comes to the conclusion that Light must be involved in her guise as Kira after making this astute deduction. To maintain his Kira endeavors, Light conceals an LCD TV within potato chip bags. With his left hand, he employs the Death Note, while taking notes with his right. Crafting an alibi by eliminating 2 unfamiliar criminals, he appears innocent. The following day, Light disposes of trash with Ryuk, observing the garbage truck compacting the waste. His gaze sharpens. Staring at the TV, Light comprehends the expense of the camera incident, $400. Following this, he acquires apples for the agitated Ryuk, coping with his apple withdrawal. Ignoring Ryuk's impatience and threats, Light feeds Ryuk the apples on his way back. Light then notifies the task force that the videotapes yielded no significant findings. Though skeptical, Elle maintains conviction that a change has occurred. He adopts a direct tactic, commanding the task force to remove cameras and wiretaps. The following day, Ryuk discovers the vanished equipment. After that, Light breezes through the entrance exam for the college he plans on attending. During the test, Light becomes aware that Elle, who is now using the identity High-key, is closely watching him. After another 3 months, both Light and Elle enroll at O University, where they each give a speech in front of the incoming freshman class. Revealing his genuine identity to Light, Elle imparts information pertinent to the Kira case. Light is aware that it would be impossible for him to murder Elle in a straightforward manner. Instead, he must engage in a tactical game of cat and mouse in order to discover Elle's real name and eliminate him. Elle, who is interested in analyzing Light's behavior, suggests a tennis match between the two of them, as they are both former champions. During the course of the game, they discuss how Light is authentically connected to Elle and to Kira. Elle arrives at the conclusion that he might be Kira if Light wins, but that this cannot be the case if Light loses, because there is still a chance that Light is actually Kira. He decides to throw the tennis match on purpose in order to avoid raising any eyebrows. After the match is over, they intend to verify identities at the headquarters of the task force. Elle reveals that Light is a potential Kira suspect and asks for his assistance in the investigation. At a coffee shop, Elle presents notes from the prisoner experiments and tests Light's reaction by altering a message's meaning. After learning that Soakairo has suffered a heart attack and is currently in the hospital, Light makes a solemn promise to track down and punish Kira for his father's ordeal. It is unclear how Light is connected to Kira, which has led to the demand that he be locked up for a month with no access to television in order to prove his innocence. At the same time, Kira's audio threats to broadcast tapes are received by Sakura TV, which is doing so at the same time as the Japanese task group is holding negotiations. During discussions about Naomi Misora's vanishing, Watari interrupts, notifying Elle of a tape supposedly from Kira broadcast on Sakura TV. The tape showcases a distorted voice proclaiming the impending demise of a TV anchor linked to minor scandals. The task force swiftly switches channels, witnessing the anchor's on-air demise. As the tape proceeds, additional TV-related threats unfold. As personalities fall victim to Kira's actions, he clarifies that he seeks support and aims to demonstrate his power. Elle insists on halting the broadcast to prevent Kira from garnering publicity and backing, but a solution eludes them. Hirokazu Yukita races to Sakura TV's headquarters, but is denied access. Drawing his gun, he attempts to shatter glass, yet he too meets the same fate as Kira's other victims. Panic spreads among the task force watching live TV. Despite this, Elle instructs them to remain composed and refrain from following Yukita to the station, as it would be a reckless sacrifice. Meanwhile, Soakairo watches from his hospital room. His wife turns off the TV, but he insists it stay on. Just as she exits, Soakairo leaves his hospital room. Leaving his bed, Soakairo seizes an ambulance and drives to Sakura TV. Crashing it through the front doors, he prevents his impending death and storms into the control room. The manager asserts that halting the broadcast will endanger everyone inside. Nevertheless, Soakairo coerces them with a gun to cease the broadcast. Following this decision, further casualties are averted. Soakairo reunites with the task force members, who are simultaneously impressed by his daring success and mournful over Yukida's unforeseen demise. L suspects that Yukida's killer possessed sight, enabling them to slay without name knowledge in an empty room. Light's non-involvement in the murders is exposed, leaving him both shocked and curious about this new Kira. He concludes that the new Kira possesses shinigami eyes, as knowing Yukida's and the officers' names is implausible. Recognizing the necessity of dealing with the new Kira, Light makes the decision to join the task force. This dual purpose involves apprehending the second Kira ahead of them and growing closer to her. L suspects the hostage-taking Kira at Security V is a distinct individual, characterized by cowardice and targeting innocents sans the need for names. L suggests Soakairo include Light in the task force, despite his name being somewhat obscure. Meanwhile, the second Kira is revealed as Misa Ame, fixated on the first Kira and orchestrating the Security V incident to garner his attention. Guided by her shinigami rep, Misa is urged not to misuse her death note. Disregarding this, she believes her power surpasses the first Kira's, wielding shinigami eyes. Light has been invited to join the Japanese task force in their efforts. Light, who is now involved in the Kira investigation, attends a meeting with L and the other detectives. After learning about L's testing and the whereabouts of the second Kira, Light does an analysis on the tapes in an effort to locate audio reader voice hints. Despite this, he is left with a sense of unfulfillment. L inquires about Light's viewpoint on the tapes, which prompts Light to discuss the concerns he has over the second Kira. The group comes up with a response video with the intention of luring the fake Kira, Mise, into having a conversation with the real Kira. Misa gets tricked by the message exchange, which causes her to reveal vital information regarding the shinigami. Light considers the presence of a second Kira to be a liability, and L is extremely worried about the possibility that shinigami may exist. It is decided to make the response given by the second Kira public, in the hopes of getting the genuine Kira to comment. Rem tells Misa the tale of a shinigami who was deeply in love with a human and sacrificed his life to attempt to save her. During this time, Light is formulating plans to remove the second Kira, and Misa is pondering the nature of the real Kira. The investigation team persists in uncovering the second Kira's identity. During their investigation, they chance upon a journal entry from the second Kira, containing clues about a meeting with Kira. Tauta Matsuda and Light volunteer, capitalizing on their youthful looks, to capture the second Kira. Teaming up with Light's friends, they explore the specified locations. L deduces the desired meeting spot to be the Note Blue convention on May 22nd. However, Misa Ame, equipped with shinigami eyes, disguises herself in a coffee shop, learning Kira's true identity as Light Yagami. As Light and Matsuda pass by, Misa confirms this to the team. Shifting strategy, the team opts to reason with the second Kira, releasing a TV broadcast denouncing Kira as a merciless murderer who targets innocents. The investigation team suggests a potential reduction in the punishment for the second Kira, on the condition that she reveals information about the real Kira. Disregarding the offer, Misa opts to directly approach Light. Misa pays him a visit at his house while posing as a fellow student and offers information about the shinigami eyes. Misa makes a romantic overture to Light, suggesting that she may be his eyes and offering to become his lover. Misa reassures Light that she is being extremely careful to avoid being discovered, despite the fact that Light is becoming increasingly suspicious of her intentions. She offers handing him her copy of the Death Note as a sign of her trust in him. Misa reveals to Light that she sees Kira as a heavenly avenger for the deaths of her parents, and she proclaims her willingness to do whatever it takes to support Kira in his mission. She does this in the context of Misa confiding in Light. Recognizing an advantage in Misa's proposition, Light accepts her assistance, allowing her to act as his girlfriend to the public. He discerns Misa's potential as a valuable asset in his ongoing battle against L, the renowned detective working to unveil Kira's identity. Misa agrees to Light's proposition, and they commence their collaboration. Building her trust, Light aims to utilize Misa's abilities to eliminate L. He negotiates with her, offering to receive her shinigami eyes in exchange for dating her. To enforce his commands, Light threatens Misa with terrible repercussions if she disobeys his orders, while Ryuk cautions Light about Misa's potential to use her death note against him if she is hurt. This situation compels Light to safeguard Misa while navigating their complex relationship. While investigating, Light uncovers that Misa is a renowned model. The second Kira publicly pledges allegiance to Kira through a broadcasted audio tape. Elle grows suspicious, speculating that the two Kiras have met and joined forces. This development raises doubts about Light, as the tape omits the demand for Elle to reveal his face, a detail Light is aware of. Light defends himself against these suspicions, although the parallels between him and Kira disturb Soichiro. Despite the fact that Elle considers Light to be his first buddy, he gives Kanzo Mogi the covert instruction to keep an eye on Light's behavior. Misa pays Light another visit, which irritates Light and raises Mogi's suspicions about her. During a one-on-one conversation with Rem, Light expresses doubts about Rem's commitment to Misei. Misa will be safe from harm as long as Rem is protecting her, he promises. Light privately asks Rem to eliminate Elle, and she agrees. However, Light remains uncertain and asks Rem to await his command. He then acquires Misei's number and takes one of her phones to avoid police tracking. Light tries to persuade Misa to leave, resorting to a kiss to manipulate her. Meanwhile, Elle informs the task force that if he dies soon, it could implicate Light as Kira, the only suspect who recently saw him. Elle appears at Light's university, interrupting his date with Kiyomi, claiming safety due to his presence. As Light ponders his next move, Misa awaits his instructions. After completing a photo shoot, Misa arrives and uses her shinigami eyes to learn Elle's true name. Light views this as a chance to uncover Elle's name. However, Elle shocks Light by disclosing his admiration for Misei's work, creating confusion. During all of the ruckus, Elle manages to get a hold of Misei's phone and ends up arresting her. Misa is held captive in a place deep beneath and is restricted there. Rem is aware that the only way to appease her is for her to give up her death note, which will also put Misa at ease. Rem reveals to Light that if he does not save Misei, she will kill him. Light is up to the job and immediately begins formulating a plan to rescue Misei. Rem offers Light some words of caution regarding the probable outcomes in the event that the plan is unsuccessful. Light bids farewell to Ryuk before heading into a foggy forest. There, Light relinquishes ownership of Rem's death note but retains his memories, as he still possesses Ryuk's death note, which he buried there. This move aims to avert suspicion from Elle and the task force. In the meantime, Misa regains consciousness but loses her memory of the death note, Shinigami, and her involvement. She becomes disoriented and confused. Misei's perplexing actions of reaching out to her captor for help leave Elle and the task force baffled. Despite Misei's previous arrest as a suspect for being the second Kira, she now appears to be kidnapped by a stalker. Light joins the task force to discuss his growing concerns. He admits that he suspects he might be Kira subconsciously, pointing to his interactions with Ray Penber, his encounters with Misa Ame, his occasional morbid thoughts, and his desire for solitary confinement. Initially hesitant, Soichiro agrees to confine Light for investigation. While Light is being held captive, the killings that have been blamed on Kira stop. As Elle's mistrust of Light deepens, Soichiro chooses to isolate himself in order to avoid introducing any emotional complications into the ongoing probe. Elle is in constant communication with the rest of the globe. After a week, Light makes the decision to give up his ownership of the Death Note, which ultimately leads to the erasure of his memories relating to Kira and the Shinigami. This alteration causes him to be confused and baffled, which increases Elle's suspicions. Despite this, the Kira's intended victims continue to meet their deaths, and Elle's skepticism over Light's guilt remains unabated. Rem, the Shinigami, has a meeting with a mysterious businessman who is related to the recent killings of Kira, and during their conversation, they discuss the possibility of utilizing the Death Note to set Misa free. The businessman proposes that as long as he kills criminals, he can use the Death Note as he wishes. After 50 days of being detained in solitary confinement, the individuals, including Light, have not changed their positions. As a result, Elle and Aizawa are beginning to question Light's involvement. Aizawa is of the same opinion as Light when it comes to the plausibility of his role as Kira. He comes to this conclusion based on the assumption that Light would not have gone to the bother of executing Lindell Taylor and the FBI agents if he had the opportunity to do it while imprisoned. Elle then seeks assistance from Soichiro and removes Misa from isolation. Soichiro reveals that the United Nations and the Japanese government wished for them to be executed without a trial, and he is the one who drives them to the execution location. On the other hand, it turns out that this was just a test, and because Light and Misa were not the ones who killed Soichiro, Elle clears their identities. Yet, Elle remains suspicious due to Misei's DNA found on audio tapes. Security cameras are placed in her room, and Light is handcuffed to Elle. Matsuda follows Misa everywhere in order to prevent any information from escaping. While Rem watches and makes comments on human nature, 8 business people plot a new Kira murder in order to strengthen Yotsuba Industries. After passing a security check, Aizawa joins the task team and discloses that he sustained a head injury after a fight with his wife. L is seen by the team to be lethargic and melancholy, and they speculate that he is blaming himself for failing to recognize the new Kira. He draws the conclusion that Kira's power is transmissible from one person to another, which renders their search for her fruitless. Light and L get into a brawl, but Matsuda steps in to stop it before it gets out of hand. Light recognizes a pattern in Kira's murders, and L is convinced that they are a distraction designed to help Yotsuba Industries. The task group finds out that several politicians' lives have been put in risk because Kira has taken bribes from them. L advises that they go back to the NPA, and Matsuda makes the decision to join. While Aizawa is having trouble deciding what to do, L puts the loyalty of the task team to the test by recruiting 2 new members, a con artist and a thief, who are both dishonest. Aizawa is overcome with emotion upon seeing his family again and breaks down in tears. Tauta Matsuda feels inferior due to his lack of progress in the Kira case and his job as Misei's manager. While on a movie set, he encounters Yotsuba's headquarters and decides to snoop around at Task Force headquarters. After hearing from L that Yotsuba intends to reveal his true identity, the task force comes to the conclusion that Yotsuba has some sort of connection to Kira. Matsuda manages to sneak inside Yotsuba's building and listen in on some of the business people as they discuss Kira. He then makes a suggestion to include Misa in Yotsuba's advertising campaign while posing as Matsu. Matsuda makes touch with L, and the 2 of them devise a plan for him to stage his own suicide. Matsuda sustains his injuries as he lands on a mattress after falling off the balcony. When the Yotsuba group gets together, Ariyoshi Hattori expresses his desire to go, but the other members are aware that he won't live for much longer. The task force makes advantage of Matsuda's intelligence to install surveillance cameras and wiretaps in the Yotsuba conference room, where they discover that only 7 members of Yotsuba are currently present. During the course of their surveillance, they come to the realization that Hattori, a member of the organization, has been murdered utilizing Kira's strategies. The team is disgusted by how openly the group discusses the killing and how little they seem to care about Hattori's death. They are particularly troubled by Ryuji Namikawa, who appears indifferent to the tragedy. Higuchi complains about Coil's lack of progress in exposing L, but Takeshiyui notes that Coil has discovered a concentration of deaths on the weekends. The group decides to balance out the deaths by targeting officials at various companies. The task force wants to intervene to save these people, but L tells them they can only be fully sure once the people they named have been killed. So Akiro tries to call the officials to warn them, but Aizawa forbids him from doing so, saying it would cause more problems. Light then devises a plan to pose as L and blackmail Namikawa into delaying the deaths. He promises to pardon everyone's crimes except for Kira's in exchange for Namikawa's cooperation. Namikawa agrees and convinces the group to postpone the deaths by 1 month, giving them time to expose L's identity. If they fail, the process will repeat, lessening suspicion. The meeting ends with the group agreeing to this plan. Meanwhile, L congratulates Light on his work and asks him to succeed him as L if he were to die. Light realizes that L still suspects him of being Kira and is playing mind games with him. L confirms that he thinks Light is Kira, and Light denies wanting the title of L. Light then confronts L about his suspicions, and Matsuda breaks up the argument, so Akiro wants to use the footage as evidence to arrest the Yotsuba group. But Aizawa says that it will lead Kira to kill them if he is not among those 7 men. L agrees to conduct his own investigation and asks the task force not to interfere with the arrests. Later, Aizawa and Light visit Misa Amin's room is where L asks her who she would choose between Kira and Light. Misa chooses Light and agrees to join the investigation to catch Kira. Aizawa reveals his plan to use Misa as a lead for the Yotsuba group, but Light objects, fearing that Kira could manipulate her. L assures him that won't happen and threatens to kill Light if he interferes. Misa then kisses L on the cheek and agrees to help with the plan. So Akiro is worried that it will be difficult to capture all the Yotsuba group members at once, even with the information they gather. The members of Yotsuba get together for a meeting to talk about Coil's report on Misei, which suggests that she may be familiar with Kira. Coil suggests that they carry out Misei's job interview together, with the intention of persuading her to provide them with information regarding L. The third Kira is getting tired of playing the role, so he hatches a plan to marry Misei in the hopes that he may use her to achieve his ambitions for wealth and influence as Kira, so making his aspirations easier to manage. Because Rem cares so passionately for Misei, He rips a page out of the Death Note and gives it to her to take with her to her job interview. Rem informs her about the odd circumstances surrounding Yotsuba after touching her with a portion of the Death Note, and then putting it to her touch. Rem divulges to Misa the information that she and Light were formerly known as Kira. She also tells Misa about her Shinigami identity and the existence of the Death Note. Misa finds out with the help of Rem that Kira is actually Kyosu Higachi. In the meantime, Matsuda is concerned about Misae's well-being. Light has come to the conclusion that the new Kira will kill anybody who has committed any crime, regardless of how trivial the offense may have been. Misa has it in her mind to look into the members of the Yotsuba board who asked her out, but Light cautions her not to probe too thoroughly lest she pique L's interest in the matter. Higachi asks Misa out on a date, and after finding out that she is the second Kira, he proposes to her. Misa accepts his proposal. Misa presents Light and the others with the recording of their conversation after having recorded it as evidence of Higachi's guilt. On the other hand, Light observes that L is staring blankly ahead of them. L investigates the identity of Kyosu Higachi and comes to the conclusion that he is Kira. He makes the necessary arrangements for the installation of cameras and wiretaps in Higachi's home. L also proposes a new theory that suggests Light was actually Kira in the past, and that Kira's powers have since been transferred to Higachi. L wonders if Light's will was behind the transfer, or if it was someone else who took the initiative to make it happen. L concocts a plan to foil Higachi's attempt to pass on his authority to his successor. In the meantime, L makes the decision to air a 3-hour Kira special with the intention of luring Kira out. There is much conjecture on who might know Higachi's secret, and he is under the impression that he is able to eliminate anyone who claims to know Kira's true identity. For the Kira special broadcast, a scheme is devised in which Matsuda would be concealed by a pane, and then shown at an important point, leading Higachi to react. This plan is set into motion. The goal of this tactic is to get Higachi to reveal his method of murder, which will then lead to his arrest. During this time, Namikawa is present at a confidential gathering with a different Yotsuba group. During a gathering that was held at the residence of one of the members, Nanakawa revealed that L, Matsuda, and Shinura are all working together to get rid of Kira. Light reveals to them their scheme to kidnap Kira and asks for their assistance in carrying it out. As a result of Namikawa's deduction that Higachi is the most likely suspect, Light reveals his awareness of the situation by mistake. Light outlines the procedure that will take place during the Sakura television special that will be shown at 7 o'clock that evening. According to Light, Namikawa will be the one to break the news to Higachi. In the event that other members interfere, those members should also be informed. As compensation for putting a halt to them, Higachi intends to obtain immunity for all members of the Yotsuba group, with the exception of himself. He tries to get in touch with Misa in order to get more information on Matsuda, but she hangs up on him. Higachi makes an attempt to interfere with the Sakura television special, and he subsequently makes a deal with Rem in order to acquire the Shinigami eyes. As part of his demonstration of his second Kira power, he murders a police officer. Light and L arrive at the site via helicopter and place Misa under restraints. As soon as possible, an arrest warrant for Higachi was issued due to the threat. Higachi travels to Yotsuba with the intention of retrieving Matsuda's name from the surveillance footage there. However, he discovers that the tapes have been switched, so Akira will now fill his position. The strategy devised by Higachi entails putting Matsuda and the interviewer in front of mannequins and capturing the conversation that ensues between them. He makes an attempt to flee, but in the process, he shoots Soakiro in the arm. Higachi runs into a roadblock set up by the police, and the task force closes in on him. Higachi is captured after Watari successfully disarms him, and he is subsequently labeled a suspect for being Kira and perpetrating countless deaths. He is being questioned by the task force while wearing a communication helmet. They question him about the manner in which he carried out the murder, and Higachi admits to utilizing a magic notepad. So Akira is terrified after discovering the Death Note and seeing the Shinigami Rem for the first time. Others proceed in the same manner. L is able to obtain the notebook, at which point she becomes aware of the existence of Shinigami as well as another Kira. Rem reacts by dropping hints that there could be more Shinigami, and that they all have similar traits when the task force discusses whether or not all of the Shinigami are the same. L's inner turmoil is exacerbated by the fact that the task group has decided to free Light and Misei. Misa is successful in locating the second Death Note that had been concealed by Light earlier. Misa makes a bargain with the Shinigami in order to discover L's actual identity when she has regained her memories. Misa and Ryuk make their way back to the headquarters, where they are reunited with Light. Rem becomes aware of Misei's limited life expectancy, while L secretly puts his plan into motion. Light makes the decision to bring Misa with him to the new world as his traveling companion. L's history as an orphan is revealed in a flashback scene. He is taken by Watari to the house where he was shaped into the person he is now. In the present, L goes to Watari's chamber and watches him in complete silence while she is there. The mood of the situation as a whole continues to be one of tension and mystery. After some time has passed, Light comes across L still out in the rain on the roof of the headquarters. L communicates his emotional distance from the people around him. They talk to each other and come to the conclusion that, like the majority of people, they also lie. After going back inside, they became members of the task force. L says that he has a scheme up his sleeve to put the bogus 13-day guideline to the test by having a sentence criminal write in the death note. However, Rem is motivated by his love for Misa and kills Watari, which sets off an alarm and causes the hard drive for the task force to be deleted. L is stunned as he watches the image of Watari that appears on his computer screen. Then all of a sudden, his eyes become wide and he collapses into Light's arms. Additionally, his name was included in Rem's copy of the death note. Everyone looks at Light, who cracks a grin as he realizes that he was right all along with his deduction. Rem's intervention results in L's eyelids closing, and he passes away without any discomfort. Rem decides to end her own life in order to spare Misae's, and she does so by reducing her body to dust and leaving behind only her notepad. Light steals Rem's notebook in the shadows and then makes a public declaration that he would exact revenge on Watari and L by unraveling the mystery. After the deaths of L and Watari, he declares that he is now the ruler of the new world because everything has been destroyed. A man is given all of the information that has been obtained regarding the Kira case simultaneously. The group finds out that Watari has been funding orphanages all around the world. It has been decided by Aizawa, Matsuda, Mogi, and Soakairo that Light should replace the letter L. Light agrees to the terms, but he plans to exercise increased caution while working from his studio apartment. This is something that Soakairo is in favor of, and Matsuda has suggested that the flat be used as the new headquarters. Light suggests to the investigative team at headquarters the use of voice recreation software in order to replicate the voices of L and Watari so that they can collaborate with the police. The problem that needs to be solved is figuring out what to do with the death note. They come to the conclusion that someone must conceal it and safeguard its location, and Soakairo volunteers to take on this duty. The crew is optimistic that they will be able to capture Kira. Matsuda, on the other hand, proposes throwing a party to celebrate the inauguration. During the course of Light and Misae's date at a cafe, Light reveals his intention to have his own flat and extends an invitation to Misa to move in with him. She accepts his offer. That nightfall, Light and Ryuk are seen conversing atop the rooftop of the former headquarters of the investigation team. Despite Ryuk's assertion that there won't be anything entertaining to watch now that L is gone, Light vehemently disagrees with this assessment. He announces his desire to create a new universe and immediately begins to judge those who have committed crimes. Light Yagami executes his judgment once more, this time taking the lives of Teru Mikami, Kiyomi Takada, and the 6 remaining leaders of the Yotsuba group. It is revealed through the use of narration that Light joined the National Police in April of 2012, at the age of 23 at the time. During the summer in question, Kira's punishments become increasingly severe, attracting the attention of people all over the world. And advocates of Kira's cause become more vocal. It would appear that the world is moving in the direction of Kira becoming the preeminent force of law. A man named Roger Ruby confirms the killings of Watari and L to 2 witnesses named Mello and Near while they are observing from the outside of an English orphanage. Roger shares the news that L has passed away with Mello and Near and advises that they work together on the Kira investigation given that L did not select a successor. Mello, on the other hand, is opposed to the plan and decides to leave the orphanage since he thinks Near ought to be L's legitimate heir. After another 5 years have passed, Near sits down with the President of the United States to discuss the operation of death notes. He divulges the fact that there are 2 death notes, one of which is in the custody of Kira and the other of which is in the custody of the Japanese authorities. Near provides the United States government with the findings of an inquiry into the Kira case that spanned 3 years. Together with the head of the FBI, they create an independent investigation team that they call SPK, which stands for Special Provision for Kira. The director of the FBI recognizes Near as the person who should take over for L, and assigns him responsibility for the special provision for Kira. At the same time, Light, Soakairo, and Matsuda are having a conversation at the Yagami residence about the publication of criminal faces on the internet. Seiyu pokes fun at Matsuda on the shift in her appearance when she enters the room. Seiyu inquires about the timeline for the wedding between Light and Misae. Ryuk pays attention to everything and is intrigued by the way people carry on as if nothing is wrong even if they are going through difficult times. A phone call comes in for Soakairo from Aizawa, notifying him that Takamura, the director of police, has been taken hostage. The investigating team gets together at their headquarters, where they are informed that the kidnappers want the copy of the death note that is held by the Japanese authorities. They have reason to believe that the FBI is involved. However, FBI agent John McEnroe has denied having any knowledge of the kidnapping. On the other hand, it turns out that McEnroe is bugged, and the SPK is eavesdropping on their chat. During this time, Mello and his minions kidnap Takamura in order to question him further. They come to find out that Soakairo, Moi, and Matsuda are the only members of the Japanese police force to be involved in the Kira investigation. Takamura makes reference to a former colleague of the police department named Yukita, who has since passed away. Mello has a hunch that there are 2 copies of the death note, one of which is in Kira's possession and the other of which is in the hands of the police. Both of these are on his list of goals. Seiyu is the next person Mello intends to abduct. While everything is going on, Light kills Takamura with his death note, and Mello's followers later find out that he has passed away. Mello considers this to be a favorable turn of events and is making preparations to kidnap Seiyu. Light receives word from Soakairo that the latter believes Mello's real name is Larry Connors. Yagami receives a call in which it is revealed that the earlier arrangement has fallen through, and that now they want to exchange Seiyu for the notebook, leaving everyone stunned. Later, Nier gives Light a call and suggests that the two of them work together to solve the mystery of who kidnapped Seiyu. Nier suggests that the negotiation of the hostage situation should be handled by the task force rather than the SPK. Soakairo is aware that he may have to give up his life in order to save everyone else, and Light encourages him to carry out whatever tasks are necessary. Light gives Misa the order to accompany him after realizing that he may require the assistance of her shinigami eyes. In order to keep an eye on Soakairo, the task force splits up into several flights. However, one of Mello's men guides Soakairo to another plane, allowing him to avoid the task force's observation. Both of the investigating teams are certain that they have found the person who kidnapped Seiyu, and the handoff of Seiyu takes place in a desolate region. However, a concealed floor ramp begins to open, and Mello gives Soakairo the command to use it. Mello and Nier have successfully launched a missile, which can be seen emerging from the ground. There is still a lot of mystery about the location of the Death Note. Both Nier and Elle have no idea whether it is in the helicopter or the missile. Mello is able to bring down the helicopter, but Nier is unable to locate the missile. Light is briefed by Nier on the huge defeat suffered by the SPK, and Nier asks Light to provide her with complete cooperation in the future. He continues to harbor the belief that a young man by the name of Mello may have some connection to these tragedies, and he reveals to Light that he is currently competing with another individual to see who can capture Kira first. During this time, two Shinigami are having a conversation within their world, and one of them suggests that the only way to regain ownership of a Death Note is to travel to the human world. Seiyu Yagami is portrayed as being unresponsive while seated in a wheelchair with her mother by her side. Because of the circumstances facing his family and the recent occurrences, Soakairo appears to be inconsolable. Matsuda and Aizawa arrive from England with information regarding Mello's orphanage and sketches of Mello and Nier when they were younger after passing over the Death Note to Mello's gang. Light obtains a letter from the person who is currently in possession of the stolen Death Note, and then, with the help of Mise, Light manipulates that person. Sido, the Shinigami who was tasked with retrieving his Death Note, has arrived in Los Angeles in order to track down the person who now possesses it. The investigating team has come to the conclusion that Kira's plan should be carried out. As a result of Soakairo's negotiation with Ryuk regarding the Shinigami eyes, the group is successful in reclaiming the Death Note. On the other hand, Mello is the one who sets off the explosion and then threatens Soakairo with a gun. Soakairo reveals Mello's real name out loud, but Jose immediately shoots him. Soakairo passes away before he is able to finish off Mello. After some time has passed, Light gives Sido back the Death Note. Ryuk notes that those who utilize the Death Note end up miserable, but Soakairo seemed to find peace in his final moments by clinging to his faith in his son. Nier is playing with toys and discussing his suspicions about Kira with Anthony Rister, after watching a program on television called Kira's Kingdom, which advocated for Kira's judgment. The investigative team later discovered that the United States had declared neutrality towards Kira. Mello, who is able to survive the blast, launches an assault on SPK agent Hal Lidner, and successfully enters Nier's offices. He informs Nier of the revelation and confirms that Shinigami do in fact exist. When Nier investigates further, he finds out that several of the Death Note's regulations are made up. He has a hunch that the rule of 13 days is not accurate, so he decides to test it by writing Mello's name. Nier makes contact with the President of the United States and threatens to reveal SPK's whereabouts. Hitoshi Demigawa travels to New York in his role as Kira's messenger and immediately begins broadcasting messages accusing SPK of being a corrupt organization around the world. Misa watches as an angry mob attempts to break into the SPK building while she prepares to kill Nier. She watches the event on TV. Light takes control of Nier's computer screens and implies that Mello may be the one responsible for what's happening. Mello watches as Demigawa encourages Kira followers to launch an assault on the SPK headquarters through a television broadcast. As Nier exits the building, Misa waits there with a weapon ready to kill him. Nier has a hunch that the second L is Kira, so he suggests that the Japanese research team take that into consideration. Light and the task force are keeping an eye on what is happening. The police have arrived and will put an end to the ruckus. Members of the SPK, including Nier, emerge from the building while concealing their identities by donning masks and wearing body armor. Nier lets the Japanese investigation team know that they can talk to him about Kira now that they have his contact information. Aizawa makes contact with Nier and provides information regarding the confinement of Light and Misei. After some investigation, Nier comes to the conclusion that Kira and the second L are indeed Light Yagami. Aizawa reveals to Light that he has spoken with Nier, and that video surveillance of Light has resumed. Mogi, Aizawa, and Misa all rummage through Misei's flat looking for a death note, but they come up empty-handed. Demigawa gets himself killed on live television thanks to Teru Mikami, who takes advantage of the situation he created involving Kira for his own gain. Light had given Misa the order to convey her death note to Mikami for the sake of this endeavor. Aizawa begins to have doubts regarding the guilt of Light and Misei. Mikami asserts that Kira possesses unlimited power. Teru Mikami was a young kid who had the goal of shielding victims of bullying at his school. He was motivated by his view that all humans can be classed as either good or evil, and he did this despite his mother's concerns that he would attract bullies while helping their victims. Mikami did not give up his fight against evil, and as a result, the people who bullied him and caused him pain were killed in a vehicle accident over time. Unfortunately, Mikami's mother was also killed in the tragedy. Because of this tragedy, Mikami decided to pursue a career in criminal prosecution and began to believe that he was acting as an agent of divine justice. Mikami's conviction that there is a system of divine justice at work is strengthened as the years pass and criminals all across the world begin dying of heart attacks. He garners the attention of Light Yagami by becoming a frequent guest on the program Kira's Kingdom in order to contribute to the cause. Light hands Mikami a death note, and immediately after receiving it, Mikami becomes thrilled about passing judgment on criminals. In the meantime, Light is thinking about who Mikami might pick to be his targets. Exactly at that moment, Matsuda shows up to tell them that Kira has chosen Takada to be the new ambassador for the company. Light is aware that Takada was one of his girlfriends when he was in college, and he intends to take advantage of their previous relationship in order to obtain more information about Kira. During this time, Mello and his accomplice Matt keep an eye on Misa by placing bugs inside Light's flat. They have reason to believe that Misa is the second Kira. During the course of their discussion, which was taking place in a hotel room, Takada was interrupted by a phone call from Mikami, who wanted to talk with everyone who was there. Mikami becomes suspicious that Light is actually Kira after Light takes the phone and engages in a mysterious chat with him over the phone. After that, Mikami gives Light the instruction to watch Sakura TV, and when they are there, they see another Kira spokesman pass away from a heart attack. Light recognizes that Mikami has exceeded his expectations and stealthily inserts a piece of paper in front of one of the cameras used by the investigative team. The paper reveals that Kira has requested that the bugs in the room be removed. The team in charge of the investigation has reached a consensus to allow Light to disable the bugs. After that, Light exposes his true identity to Takada as Kira and tells her that Mikami is his trusted aide. The zealous passing of judgment on criminals by Mikami continues while Nier, one of L's successors, deduces Light's link with Kiyomi Takada, a news anchor who covertly favors Kira. Nier sends some men of the SPK to Japan in order to apprehend Kira, but Light is suspicious of Nier's motives and decides to act as if they are cooperative in order to catch Nier off guard. While this is going on, the task force comes up with a scheme to bring back Misei's role as the second Kira. The scheme involves Mogi infiltrating several different television stations that are related to Kira while using the identity Machai. The plan calls for employing Misa as a bait in order to entice Kira and capture him in the act of committing the crime. Putting together the pieces of the puzzle, Nier compares Light to L. Kira and identifies another user as X. Kira. Kiyomi Takada is the conduit via which he discovers their limited connection. The idea that Nier would go against L's values by murdering either Kira or L is shot down by Nier. The members of the task team follow Light and Kiyomi about while they go on a date. Kiyomi is informed in a stealthy manner by Light about the activities of SPK, and Light begs her to succeed Kira. Mikami, who is clearing out names, is taken aback by Takada's agreement. In order to signal to Mikami to stop the killings and put names on the Death Note sheets, Takada asks for a fan letter that contains 5 blank Death Note pages. A phony copy takes the place of Kira's kingdom, signaling the beginning of the show Miss Takada today. In the pilot, Takada's 4 bodyguards are introduced. Light has a hunch that Hal Lindner is a member of the SPK. Nier immediately deduces that X. Kira has Takada's eyesight and is familiar with her, pointing the finger in the direction of Mikami. Misae's actions, which she takes when furious, almost put the investigation in jeopardy. The proximity to Nier enables Light to concentrate on Takada and Lindner while they search for Mikami. Stephen Jevany of SPK conducts surveillance on Mikami but finds nothing fishy about him. Nissa seems to be under the influence of something as she is dining with Takada, and during that time she makes a prediction that Light would end up capturing Kira. Takada is taken aback by the information regarding her execution. She doesn't show her reaction since she believes she is the all-powerful being. She brings an abrupt end to the dinner. While Jevany is still following Mikami, Nier hears from Jevany about a man who passed away on a train. Aizawa and Light have prepared for their upcoming encounter by installing wiretaps. During his date with Takada, Aizawa develops a greater sense of mistrust towards Light. Takada brings up Misae's comment about getting engaged, and Light admits that she is actually the second Kira. They come to the end of the date. Lindner and Takada were found to be 2 of the marks by Aizawa during the course of the monitoring. The absence of the notepads is suggestive of the writing of notes. The task force monitors the performance of pop music at the festival. After being taken into custody by Nier, Misa and Mogi are confronted by Lindner and Ristur. Misa is under suspicion by Nier as possibly being the second Kira. Jevany tries to touch the notepad, but Ryuk is not there to be seen by her. If Jevany is still alive on January 3rd, then Nier will make plans to meet Light in exactly 24 days. Another date has been scheduled for Light and Takada. Light instructs Takada to get in touch with him if Mikami can be reached on January 6th. Jevany takes pictures of the names that are written in Mikami's dying note. In the month of January, Nier works on developing a detailed plan to capture Kira. Mello keeps a careful eye on what Kiyomi Takada is doing as the other major participants in the Kira investigation go about their daily business. Stephen Jevany fills Nier in on his responsibilities about a specific matter. Ryuk follows Light, and Mikami stays focused on the task at hand, which is the writing of names. Takada reaches out to Light and expresses her wish to meet, which, in essence, confirms that the circumstances are ideal for Light to meet Nier. Following the successful establishment of communication, Nier initiates a request for a meeting with Light on behalf of the Japanese task team. In the meantime, Aizawa has a sneaking sense that this meeting will include either revealing information about Nier or eliminating her. The task force, SPK, and Mogi are scheduled to attend the meeting that will take place on January 28th. Light is on board and has made arrangements to murder Nier. Mello takes Takada hostage after Light gives him the order to murder Nier. Takada creates Mello's name, and then he passes away. Light orders Takada to kill a large number of people. Then he, Izawa, and Ide set out to rescue Light's sister. Takada makes touch with Mikami, and she visits the location of the incident. Light inscribes Takada's name into the Death Note, which prompts her to cause a fire in the building. Not only does this result in her own death, but also Mello's and the destruction of any remaining components of the Death Note. As news of Takada's passing spreads, Aizawa develops a deeper sense of mistrust towards Light. Ide and Matsuda are against the idea of more people competing to be Kira's spokeswoman. Light is certain that his strategy will be successful when used against Nier. Nier has confirmed that the meeting with the Japanese task team will take place on January 28th. Matsuda and Ide are overjoyed, but Aizawa is becoming increasingly concerned because they could all pass away on that day. SPK is responsible for all of its own preparations. Mikami has arrived and written everyone's name down, with the exception of Kira's. It is revealed by Nier that he has altered Mikami's death note, so assuring that they will not perish. Light reveals his plan and claims that Mikami has the original, unmodified version of the death note in his possession. After the countdown has come to an end, Light addresses Nier and boastfully declares that it appears as though he has triumphed. Light Yagami and Teru Mikami are taken aback when 40 seconds have passed and no one has been killed. Mikami is curious about the reason why this took place. Nier gives orders to Anthony Rister and Stephen Giovanni to detain Mikami, admitting that they have tampered with the real notebook by replacing its pages with phony ones created by the SPK. When Mikami used the notebook to assassinate Takada, he did it inadvertently, which led to his capture because it disclosed the whereabouts of the real notebook. Because of what Mello did, Nier was able to achieve his goals. After learning that Light is actually Kira, Matsuda shoots him many times, leaving him in a critical condition as a result of his injuries. Mikami ends up stabbing himself, but Light is able to get away. Light has a hallucination of his younger self, who is ultimately responsible for his death at the hands of Ryuk. The ending depicts what happens to the surviving Kiras, with Mikami's lifeless body being left behind in the warehouse. Misa Amin returns to the old task force building and commits suicide by jumping off the roof. Light's life comes to an end with a cardiac arrest as Ryuk fulfills his former warning, inscribing Light's name in the Death Note, symbolizing his ultimate defeat. And there you have it, the enthralling journey of Death Note summed up in this recap. From the intricate mind games to the moral dilemmas, this anime has taken us on an unforgettable ride. But this is just the beginning. If you enjoyed this recap and want more engaging insights into your favorite anime, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot more exciting recaps, discussions, and analyses coming your way. Don't miss out on the chance to dive into the worlds of your beloved anime and explore the depths of their stories with us. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more captivating content. Until next time, keep watching, keep enjoying, and keep exploring the amazing world of anime.